Next up, what about the other app stores? So we're going to have a talk about that from Jaime from Huawei is going to come up and tell us about working with the non-standard app stores. So over to you, sir. I'll let you kick off straight away.
Thank you very much. While people take their seats, just checking the sound is okay? Sound is fine? Very good. So let's start. Welcome everyone to this session about alternative app stores and why it pays off to bring your games to them. In order to illustrate this session, we selected this impressionist picture of a boat for two reasons. Reason number one, if you work in games, you know that everyone that wants to enter this industry is up for an adventure. Reason number two is because this picture was made by a bot, by an AI in 20 seconds, with a very easy prompt. This means that we need to stay ahead of the game. We need to avoid staying for too long in the comfort zone, and we need to be aware of what is trending if we want to succeed. So, talking about games, if we ask the audience which element should a game have for it to be a successful enterprise, maybe some people would say, well, the game should be fun. Yes, because if the game is boring, it doesn't have a bright future. Maybe some people would say the game should be beautiful or visually appealing or at least not disgusting. Yeah, but we have Mortal Kombat out there for years, so there's other reasons. Maybe the game should be engaging and people want to play and so on. Maybe. All of these is open for debate. But what it's not open for debate is that for the project of a game to be successful, it needs to be profitable. And profitable is a word that for us creators is like a curse, because if it wasn't for profitability, we would be creating masterpieces every day. But it has to be profitable. And nowadays, in the modern days, profitability is a very simple equation. It's about return on investment. What you invest in making the game and the result you get out of that needs to make sense. There are salaries to pay, there are investors to keep happy, it needs to pay off. So my question is, how is this profitability working in the modern days for mobile games? I represented profitability equation as a hamster wheel that has two dimensions. The first one is the acquisition of the users. That's when the hamster wheel starts to spin, and it ends with the retention of the user. In between the moment we acquire the user and the moment we lose the user, that is where the magic happens. That is where you guys have your updates of the game, seasoning, the push notifications, the offers, the quests. This is where the universe of mobile games return on investment exists. Outside of these two dimensions of acquisition and retention, there is the nothingness of Michael End in the never-ending story. So we need to focus on that area. How is that working nowadays? How is that cycle of ever acquiring, retaining users working? Well, many companies apply what I recently described as the ORC solution, which is shovel more coal into the engine and keep it burning. Try to outbid your competitors. Okay. If everyone is doing that, if everyone is trying to outbid their competitors in the same channel, it's not surprising that the cost per acquisition, the cost for acquisition of users, keeps increasing all the time. We're about to enter Q4 now. Halloween is coming, Black Friday is coming, Christmas is coming. What do you think is going to happen to CPIs? Yeah. But maybe CPI is getting difficult, but maybe retention is very easy. Maybe it's easy to retain users. I'm going to show you one graph. This has a red line that separates those companies, those apps that acquire users organically every month, these ones in here, and those who don't, those who lose users organically every month. In the square area, in the rectangle area, there are 1,400 apps. Outside the rectangle, there are 3 million apps, which means that 99.93% of apps of the world lose users every month. So it looks like in our boundaries of acquisition and retention, acquisition is getting tougher and tougher, more and more expensive. Retention is getting more difficult. There are 6,000 new apps launched in the market every day. 6,000 apps and games every day, 3 million apps. Why is it so difficult? I will show you with a game. I will show you 2 pictures, and you need to find in the 2 pictures a Lego guy with an open shirt. Yeah? I'll give you 2 seconds. Good. The guy is here. Yeah? In which of the pictures it was easier to surface the content, to surface the item? Clearly, in that one. Why is that? Well, the hashtag of the moment is saturation. If you're trying to surface your item in a channel that has 3 million other items, and everyone is betting and shouting to be seen, obviously, it is very complicated. Maybe it's time to look for alternatives. Alternative what? Alternative app stores. Is that a thing? Are alternative stores really existing? Well, if you pay attention to the report of Newzoo of May this year, not only they exist, but they have been a thing for quite a while. App stores, alternative app stores, keep a market share of 23% of revenue of the mobile industry. Yes, there's the duopoly of Apple and Google, but you have to consider that all the developers of the world are in these stores. In the alternative ones, the density of developers is much smaller. So the revenue per developer average is quite high. If you want to conquer all these stores, well, basically, if you only launch your Android game on Android, you're capping your potential revenue by 23% straight away if you only launch on Google Play. So these 3 ecosystems can be described like this. Apple App Store, everybody knows. Google Play, everybody knows. Google Play coexists with other alternative app stores like Samsung Galaxy in the same phone. Samsung Galaxy phones have Google Play. Xiaomi phones have Google Play. Huawei phones don't have Google Play, which means if you are not in AppGallery, you are missing on the Huawei population. And the question is, how interesting is that population? Why should I care about that? Well, first of all, Huawei App Store is the biggest of the alternative app stores. We have 580 million monthly active users globally. And you might think, oh, but yeah, but these are in China. Well, in Europe, we have 45 million monthly active users. LATAM on top of that, Middle East, etc. Southeast Asia. Let's see how it performs in AppGallery. For game downloads, you can see the evolution of 2020 to 2021. 3.4-fold the downloads. The biggest category of downloads, puzzles and casual. Then there is action. Then there is RPG, strategy, etc. And you might think, yes, downloads don't make the ROI positive. It's about revenue. Yes, you're right. Let's look at revenue. These are the in-app purchases. 2.8-fold year-on-year increase. RPGs, the best category, then strategy, then action. Casual and puzzle, despite the downloads, they are not so good at in-app purchases because many casual games monetize through ads. So how are ads revenue doing in here? Double the monthly ads revenue year-on-year. It is a very good, healthy store to consider. And some of you might be thinking, okay, this guy is showing 2020, 2021, because in 2022, Huawei is selling less devices and this doesn't look so good. It's not the case. 2022 is the best year ever for AppGallery. 2020 was good, 2021 was good, 2022 still growing. And if you look at per category of games, 2020, 21, 22, you can see, I told you, RPGs are killing it, strategy, etc. This is in-app purchases revenue. The best year of AppGallery, the best year to onboard AppGallery is this one. So how can that be? How can these alternative app stores keep growing when there are this duopoly existing of Apple and Google Play? What is their superpower? This is another AI image generated by a bot. The prompt I wrote was Thor, the Viking god of thunder, and it created this. I think that is a goat. The other goat, probably he already ate it. So we have 4 superpowers that I'm going to give you a teaser, and then we will explain them. The first one is the high-spending community. Huawei phones are sold to a very high standard of user in terms of consumption of content. 75% of our users have high or mid level of income. 60% are highly educated. So people spend in our phones. Second is the very low development effort. Third, for advertisers and those who want to acquire users, very interesting return on ad spending. And for publishers who want to monetize through games, casual and puzzle games, very interesting first-party targeting that I will go in a second. So let's go with the HVU community. To illustrate why our audience is high spending, we can look at the revenue month by month in Europe. This is, for those who thought, as I said, that we were a Chinese store, we are strong in China, but in Europe it grows like this. And if we look at the ARPPU by country, we reach $200 in countries like Germany. And in countries that are normally less spending, like Poland, $100 ARPPU across the whole audience. It is an interesting pond to fish. About the possibility to launch in other markets. Due to the saturation we saw and the high CPIs, some developers cannot afford exploring markets beyond those where they are very successful because it's so expensive. You can do that in AppGallery. We are successful in every market, and some developers are doing that. They got, let's say, UK, Germany covered with Google Play. They want to try Turkey. Okay, then they try in AppGallery. They get the analytics right, and then they expand in Google Play. About development effort, our platform is Android compatible. This is not Windows Phone story. Android compatible, it means that there's a high chance your game runs straight away out of the box in a Huawei phone. Yes, if you monetize or send push notifications or have ads, there are some kits that depend on the Google services that need to be replaced. But the good news is that we have a solution ready for every major development engine, Coco Studio, Unity, etc., that makes the work very easy. And the best of all, we have a super friendly technical team on the ground across any country where you're based, that we get to the point that even we send developers to your office to debug. We have done that already. You don't need to wait until another continent wakes up and sends a bot reply. That makes the development of your game sometimes ready in minutes. So very easy to develop. We have, at this moment, completed development with this solution of games for companies like Rovio, for example. It works really well. So, about ads, about user acquisition and monetizing through ads. We have a cross-platform environment, which means that users don't get a saturated exposure to spam. For advertisers, that means positive return on ad spending in about 12 days. Our CPI is 26% lower than Android average. It's much cheaper to get these high spenders using the ads of AppGallery. What it means for you as a developer is that in red, the less you spend on ads. In yellow, you increase your revenue, divergent lines. Spend less and less and make more and more revenue. For publishers, we have a 20% higher eCPM than in average Android channels. So the question is, besides looking good in a PowerPoint, does this work? I will show you, just to conclude my presentation, 2 examples. One for in-app purchases, one for ads. In-app purchases, this is a top multiplayer combat game. They decided to launch in Google Play, green line, nothing surprising there. And they kept it quite stable. They are good at in-game operations, etc. They decided to launch in AppGallery, red line, at the same time. The units in this graph are days. So yes, it took 3-4 weeks for the high HVUs, the high spenders of AppGallery, to wake up and start spending. By week 5, we matched the revenue generated in Google Play. And this graph is outdated. Now they make more money in AppGallery than in Google Play. True story. This is not about stealing users from one store to the other, like it would happen in a phone that has both stores. It's about incremental Android revenue. About ads monetization, we can look at the case of Outfit 7. To give you an idea of how easy it is to port to AppGallery, they released 14 games between January and July. Clearly, it makes sense for them, and clearly, it's not very complicated. So with that, for those that want to surface in the Lego picture that I showed, full of people that want to avoid the hamster wheel that is becoming narrower, I only have one question. Should we talk? We will be here. We have a stand just in front of the door. You know where to find us. We're very friendly people, and we can talk in detail about everything that each of your game needs. With that, I conclude my session. Thank you very much. We have time maybe for a couple of questions.
Absolutely, sounds good to me. So, does anyone have any questions on using other app stores? And in fact, in the meantime, let's do the round of applause thing too, because I forget about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. So, does anyone have any particular questions? I can kick off. So, one of the things that my mind is that this has been given my history back in the old Java days, this is like coming around again. The old operators took over from the OEMs in the first place. And then it was, operators, carriers. And then it was back to Apple and Android. And now we're starting to see, more local stores, more OEM-style stores in different territories starting to make a big difference, in particular to augment the other sales that we're doing. So in terms of the developer-publisher strategy, what part do you think, working with the OEM like yourselves or other discrete stores, what part does that play? Is it the central decision process? Is it augmentation? How much impact does it have on those teams?
So the first thing that these teams have to consider is the risk of putting all your eggs in one basket. Maybe your performance in a channel like Google Play or Apple is looking good now, but with the constant saturation and so on, you need to diversify. And the mathematics of the ROI that I showed are very important. This diversification cannot be a sacrifice of the quality of your game and so on. You need to go for an easy solution, a low-hanging fruit that allows you to explore other options. So it is not, you don't need to redesign the teams the way you have them. There are many solutions to keep focusing on the key channels and explore AppGallery. The effort to launch in AppGallery is so low that you can learn and continue developing without having to implement a new parallel team and so on.
But presumably there's still the APIs, there's still the billing integration, there's still having to work out how the ad integration you've already got in your game will operate in that context, particularly because if I've implemented ads in my game, they're going to be going to the store of that particular originating platform. That doesn't work. If I'm coming to you, I need to integrate probably a new ad network. Or am I missing the point?
You don't need to do that. We have already made it easier. So most of the developers that use ads to monetize, they use a mediation solution or a pre-bidding solution. We have a plugin that integrates already in Google Ads Manager, for example, or others. So again, it's a matter of 5 minutes. We want to turn this into as much passive income as possible. So yes, there's the integration of the APIs that you need to do on a one-time basis. And after that, the maintenance is actually pretty easy. So what we recommend every developer is to pilot test the platform with one game. That's what Playrix did, for example. And then as soon as they see how it works, Playrix launched their whole catalog 3 months later. So it is a bit of a learning at the beginning because we work differently than Google and Apple, but very positive and very friendly. And after that, most developers, they basically launch their whole catalog,
So in terms of the actual kind of particularly with the Chinese market itself, we had a conversation about Android apps in the Chinese market earlier. Obviously, Huawei have a massive impact in that space. How does that affect their engagement with you? When they're engaging with you, are they talking about the rest of the world, or are we getting access to Chinese market through that process?
So we are the bridge between China and the West in both sides. Many Chinese developers see the potential outside of China. I mean, there's IGG and so on, these kind of games, Lost Mobile and many other Chinese developers, Tencent, etc. And we help them understand some markets that are maybe not in the radar. Markets where we are very successful, like, I don't know, Romania or Turkey. These are maybe not in all the mentality when you're considering European markets, or the Nordics. So that's why we work in that direction, but also we can support European games to go to China. We are not publishers.
No.
You need a publisher, local.
You still need the rules of
yes.
the market.
Yeah, we cannot change the rules of the market, but we can help giving advice, and we can help with bridging that distance.
Well, that's great. There is a couple of questions. Sorry, running a bit over, but let's go for it.
So I'm seeing a number of casual games on the internet. What is the split between casual and mid-core games?
The split in terms of...
In Europe, in regards to games in the platform.
The split in terms of how many, or...
Yes.
The majority of games we have in AppGallery are still coming from China, because they have been there for a while. And in China, the most popular monetization genre is the construction strategy, like the real-time construction. A bit like sort of a Clash of Clans type of game. So that is a large majority we have. If you are about to launch a game like that, you will have a big competition. We have fewer games with other, well, since Voodoo launched their catalog, we have a lot more hyper-casual games. So there's a big amount of hyper-casuals, but it's not saturated. I think puzzle games, despite Playrix being in there and Rovio being there is a good room for that. Action games, racing, etc., it's interesting. So I don't know if you have a specific type of game that you would like to discuss, but besides real-time city builder strategies, I wouldn't say any of the other categories are saturated. Yep.
Hey, thank you for the presentation. Do you have, for publishers, do you offer some featuring opportunities, like to put the games on the front page, basically, for a short amount of time to support a launch, for example, these kind of things?
That's a very good question. So it all comes down to the value for the user. So if you have a story that we can tell the users, then we will feature you in many different places, but much more smartly than being a spam banner in a front page. We have a whole cross-platform ecosystem that can appear in many parts of the device. For example, we could send a push notification to all those users who have not downloaded your game yet, and tell them about an offer that you prepare for them. But it's all about the story. We avoid saying, this game is good, download it. Because that, in the end, the click-through rate you will get is not engaged. And people will download your game and never open it. We tell a story about you. So in that, we are very different to Google or Apple. We create with you the engagement, the funnel steps. Otherwise, yeah, as I said, you get people downloading the game, you are all excited, nobody opens the game. If they do, they don't monetize. We have to give them the appetite to get into the game. And we are very good at that.
And on that note, thank you, Jaime, very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right.